What's up, guys? Good morning. David Villa here. Welcome to Game Changer. Man, I am excited to do the show today. It's Thursday. And I hope you guys are having a great day. We are. And got a quick question, just because my curiosity is just flowing over, brimming on the top. Elisa, what's the key? The key. The comment key. I was like, what's the key mean? I saw that pop in. So for everyone that's not looking at Facebook, you probably have no idea what we're talking about. But it's okay. That's just how we roll. Hey, we're going to talk about you have potential. You have potential. Come on, man. Aren't you glad? But that's the good news, but here is the reality. I don't think that's the bad news. It's just the real news. All right, the good news is you have potential. The real news is so does a lot of other people. So do a lot of other people. So does everyone else, or most everyone else. And I'd say everyone else. I mean, God created everyone with potential, but a lot of people have potential. And, I don't know, a couple years ago, God dropped something in my spirit, and she heard us talking about keys.
Yeah, we were talking about a different key, and we didn't realize that they could hear us. So we were talking about keys here.
Okay.
And she's like,
that was the whole conversation we were having right before we came live. We actually switched. By the way, there will be no more streams cutting off and going in and out. I'm just putting that out there.
We sure hope so.
Yeah, because we switched.
I have never been more nervous for a broadcast than this.
It's okay. Make sure it's right. It's good. But because of the switch over, so that you guys could have no more interruptions, it was just different in the way we hear ourselves in the beginning, and so that's what we were talking about. But interesting that she put down a key like that. So, but potential, and this is the crazy thing about it, right? There's a lot of people that are born with that have potential. And I said something a couple years ago the Lord dropped in my heart, because I deal in an arena where, specifically as a CEO and as a business leader in that role in my life, even as in ministry, when I've led teams and things like that, I've dealt with a lot of people that have potential. They're drivers. And so you get to see their potential. You hire them based on their potential. And it's an engine position. It's a position that drives sales or drives revenue or drives, a department. It's a leadership position. A lot of times that type of potential sits out on the forefront and is kind of noticeable to others. And there's a lot of people that want it or that say they want it. There's a lot of people that it looks like, it sounds like, they dress like, they act like they want it, and they have potential, and it rests on the surface, and you can go, that's potential, but potential is surface deep. I've also had an overwhelmingly large amount, incredibly large amount of people in that same category over the years that have never unlocked their potential. They've never been willing to develop their potential. And so I want to talk today about you have potential, but then I want to talk about developing potential and do something now, because one of the keys, and I'm going to give you just a little bit of the end of the story, or a little secret maybe up front now that we'll address a little bit later and kind of touch on it more. But one of the keys, one of the secrets, I should say, to developing and unlocking your potential is to do it now. And so let me just kind of give away that at the end a little bit. Give away that ending now. Do it now. And what I mean, and here you go, well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, because a lot of times you need to realize that it's not potential. You're developing your potential, and you and I want the end result now. Like we know we're talented. We know we have the giftings from the Lord. We know that we have these dreams and desires. And so potential has to develop and get to the place where you can handle walking in the fruition of the picture that God showed you. For instance, when he shows you the dream or the destiny, or when you see that business, you don't ever see the business. Let me talk to some business owners. You don't see the business that God places in your heart. You working from your home computer in a pair of sweatpants and flip-flops, and, struggling. You see yourself with 10 employees working in a really cool office, with the decorations laid out just like the movie that you watched. That's what you see. And that's okay to see that. But potential has to develop in order potential has to develop in order for you to be able to walk in the fruition of what God showed you. Does that make sense? Are we good, by the way, on the?
Yeah, we're all good.
All right, good.
Great.
All right, so cool. I keep seeing stuff flashing around in front of me and just like a fly.
We're just checking everything, man.
All right, cool. All right, so let's talk about
Let
it.
me be the nervous one in this broadcast.
That's all right. When I see it, if I see it, it just gets me. All right, so let's look up definition of potential. Mike, why don't you read it?
Having or showing the capacity to become or develop into something in the future. I like the noun definition a little better. Latent qualities or abilities that may be developed and lead to future success or usefulness.
Okay.
I kind of like that word usefulness.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Bible talks about for such a time as this, right? And it talks about salt. And we're the salt. And if we've lost our saltiness or lost our savor or lost our flavor, then what good are we? So the Bible clearly, and it says, we talk about faith a lot on this show. He talks in the Bible, it says faith without works is dead. So faith without works is usefulness, is uselessness. So if you want to be useful, you have to have faith, but also work. So you have to unlock and grow and develop the potential. I love it. I like the first one, the adjective. My gosh, man. Having or showing the capacity to become or develop into something in the future. Here's what's really cool about that. God shows us that in the gifts of life. Even when a woman becomes pregnant and that child is growing in the womb, you see, and it's interesting. You go see a sonogram, you go to different stages of that pregnancy, and you'll see the fetus, then becomes, a baby, capacity to become and develop into something in the future. You begin to see that develop. It's amazing. And that's even before it's birthed, and then as you begin to see like the baby that can't sit up, the baby that begins to sit up, the baby that can't walk, then it begins to crawl, then it begins, and you begin to see these things develop as well. So potential is a big deal. Potential is something we all have, but what if you just took that baby and laid that baby, into a big giant crib, fed it, just fed it, but never really ever spent time or trained or taught or talked to or anything. The potential would still be there, and the capacity for that baby to do things would still be there, but it would be a lot slower, developed. And so potential is a huge word. Here's my thing. Let me throw this out there, and we welcome your comments, by the way, as well. If you have some comments on this, maybe you have something in your heart with regards to the topic of potential, unlocking potential, developing potential. Okay, maybe you've been around some people with a lot of potential, a lot of talent, and so you have something to say about that. I will say this: it's amazing how many gifted people there are who just sit on the sidelines of life and do nothing. A couple of my books, we've written 5 books, and the Leader Be Lunch book and I believe the Grind book, both of them talk and delve into this a lot. Matter of fact, I have a whole chapter in Leader Be Lunch called Get Off the Bench. And that's where I put out that quote. Actually, I guess that quote was, God really talked to me about this several years ago because that book was written and released in 2017. But we talk about, potential doesn't matter, or talent doesn't matter. Potential won't cut it. You have to get up and you have to get dressed and you have to get in the game. And so, it's how many gifted people, think about this, sit on the sidelines and they do nothing. And again, part of the reason you do nothing is because you're waiting for a moment. You're waiting for it to feel right, or, and there's something for waiting and not jumping the gun. But there's and that's a false start. But there's also like, get up and do something. You've been, don't you there's both sides of that. I mean, it's like it's all or nothing sometimes with us. It's like, oh my gosh, I've got a tendency to jump the gun. I've got a tendency to fire aim ready. And false start. So I'm just going to wait. And God's teaching me patience. He's teaching me to wait on him. And then that's good. But then there's times when we overweight. I mean, you ever, let me tell you something. Do you like food? I know you got to eat food, but do you
really
like
just
food?
say the word we overweight and then ask, do I like food?
Overweight. Get it?
I was like, is that a fat joke?
We
Are you talking about
overweight.
me?
We overweight.
I am overweight. Yes.
So
you are
let me-
100% right.
Do you like food though? I mean, I know you have to eat, but do you like food?
Oh,
Of
yeah.
course.
Okay. So do you ever had something that was undercooked?
Yes.
Yes.
What sound comes out of your mouth for that?
Yeah.
Okay. You ever had something that's overcooked?
Yes.
What sound comes out of your mouth for that?
I don't like my steak overcooked.
No, man. Joe Callow's watching right now. He's the only guy I know that eats. He will watch this because he texted me this morning about yesterday. He texted me about yesterday's show. He's the only guy I know. He will not eat an ounce, a trace of red, period, pink, light pink in his. He likes his steak well done. So we'll go to Charlie's Steakhouse. I mean, we'll have like 10 of us. We're dropping like $2,000 on a bill, and Joe will order his steak at Charlie's. Well done.
Absolutely not.
Extra charred
Butterflied.
too. Extra
Absolutely
charred too.
That's disgusting. The waiter looks at him like,
Just,
what?
Joe,
I
just
like
just
my
go to
steak
McDonald's,
juicy, man.
Joe. Don't do that to a
I
steak.
love my steak juicy.
Yeah.
Get Joe some steakums.
But he actually eats everything that way. He likes his friend, everything he gets like crispy or something. But maybe it's a texture thing. I don't know.
It could be.
So you like food.
Oh yeah.
Those of you watching, you like food. How about undercooked food? No. But what about overcooked food?
No.
No, man.
Well,
I
that's a
don't
good
want.
point.
I don't like a lot of I don't want like the pan, to crisp up something so much that it puts like a charred taste on everything. I don't want that. So, but it's amazing how many gifted people sit there and wait. What are they waiting on? What do you think they're waiting on?
So for me, and I mean, just in
And
my
while
life,
Mike's answering, what are you waiting on? You've waited before. You've overweighted. Not that you've been overweight. You overweighted.
we got to get off the word overweight.
No, I think it's a good play. I think it's actually you've overweighted. What have you overweighted on?
Honestly, for me,
I know that's not grammatic.
in my life, it's honestly just been laziness. Like I've always known certain things that I should be doing, that I've had potential in doing them, and I've just always kind of just been like, nah.
So Sam, why don't we type this in the question? So say why? What are some reasons why you have overweighted in this? WAITED.
Overeating for me.
No, but look at that. Make sure I worded it right, Mike. Over shoulder and stuff like that too, because I want to make sure. And then put a question mark there, and then we're going to answer. Put your answers, guys, in, and Mike, you guys can put your answers in. What are some reasons in the past where you have overweighted, and then put like a little not the quotations, but the little like one what do you call that? A little one bar on each side, not the two
Parentheses.
quotations. Huh? Yeah.
Well, not parentheses,
No, it's like
no.
the little. It's like one of the quotations. It's like
Apostrophe.
the quotations are twins.
It's
and
an
one of them
apostrophe.
went away. Is it?
It's an apostrophe,
Okay.
technically.
All right. So just put those on the side. right.
But yeah, for me, it's always been laziness. I've talked about this before, and I'll say this, and I know we're talking about God, but something you have the gifting as a leader is to see the potential in others to be able to do things. That's why my job developed in such an odd way. I was originally hired for IT, and then I got brought into AV because you were like, well, can you do this? Like, you've done this before. Do you have the ability to do this? And that grew into something to a whole new level. Then it came to the actual production side of things when we actually do live events or just events in general. And again, you saw the potential, and it's like, well, this is it. Sometimes having that voice that can see the potential in you, that kind of gives you that push in that right direction, can unlock a whole new walk for you. Mm-hmm. I never saw myself. I was always a perfectionist when it came to audio and video stuff with things that I did, and I can, look at everything and nitpick all these little things, and it's a whole nother story when I started actually doing it, and it's like, oh,
You just dove in though,
Yeah.
in some way, because you can over-educate yourself. You can get to a place where I've got to get trained. I've got to get, I've got to go, through these skill shares. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. And then eventually you have got to try.
Yep.
Because there is something to be said for on-the-job training. Elisa asked the question. I'm going to get to that. Hopefully I'm going to answer that one way or the other, or give my best answer. By the way, if you're on Facebook, specifically, that's where she commented. She asked, scroll up, let me just read it. She asked, what advice would you give to know when the waiting should stop and the action should start? We'll get to that in a minute, because I think it'll be covered here in what we prepared, but either way, we'll come back to it. But also, if you're on Facebook feel free, please answer that as well. Maybe give some advice to Elisa. And we'll be flipping back to read some comments on LinkedIn here in a moment as well. But let me just say this: the truth is this: God has given each one of us gifts, and we know this. Okay, so let's just eliminate the question first of all. Each one of us have gifts. God's given them to us. Each one of us have talents. God's given them to us. Each one of us have abilities. God's given us to us. He has a great plan. We've established this over the weeks. We established this nonstop. Jeremiah 29:11 would be a good place to start on that. He has great plans for us, okay? He has equipped us. We even talk about, hey, if God calls you, he'll qualify you. And he does that. He demonstrated that with his disciples. He called them before they were qualified. So he called them out of, he always, let me just say this, and you can put this down, Sam. God always speaks to you from a place of potential. I'll say it again. God always speaks to you and I from a place of potential. God always speaks to you from a place of potential. Okay? So he called the disciples from a place of potential, not from a place of qualification. They weren't qualified. And it wasn't based on their past, and because that would be based on their resume. He did it based on potential. So let's just go ahead and put that to bed, that he has called us, he's gifted us, okay? But until we see ourselves, and this is kind of delving into maybe helping Elisa as well, the way he sees us, and trust him to enable us to use our gifts, we won't live up to our God-given potential. So no matter what, no matter how many training you have, no matter how many books you read, no matter how much you do, eventually you will have to trust God and step out into the unknown to some degree. And that's not just, and I want to be careful because, there is preparation that's needed. You have to count the cost. I mean, the Bible clearly talks about, counting the cost to make sure that you aren't made a mockery of, so that you, count the cost so you know what it's going to take to finish. I mean, that is important. Those are very important things. By the way, we're going to be planning our mastermind, our marketplace mastermind, and we're going to have 40 people here. We had a lot of people reach out. If you'd like information on that, it's going to be here. It's going to be free. If you'd like information on that, you just have to get yourself here. We're going to have that. We will make some live stream available as well, but we have 40 seats here. We'd love to have you, and we'll be kicking off the day with our podcast in the training room live. So we'll do that podcast live, and then we're going to have a day where we're going to talk about mastermind. The guys just looked at each other. Then we'll have a day. If we have to do it in the studio while you guys are in there, whatever, if we have to jam all 40 of you in our studio somehow, we will, whatever. But we're going to do that. But then we're going to have a day where we're going to go over this type of stuff really and delve into it. I think it's going to really be beneficial. So if you'd like to come, make sure you message us on LinkedIn or Facebook, or get a hold of us if you're listening to us on other sources. But so let me just throw out this: if you're struggling with low self-esteem, these are reasons why we don't. Okay, I think before I can get into how can we, I think we have to get into reasons why we don't. Poor self-esteem. If you're in sales or business, it could be sales esteem. It can be, you have a poor self-image, or you maybe lack confidence. I've struggled with all of these things. So I want you to know that God created you with an amazing potential. And when you trust him and believe you can do whatever he says you can do, that's the key too. If he says it, it's done. You have to walk it out. But if he says it, God doesn't lie. He says you can do it. If he puts it on your heart, then he will qualify you. Amen?
I feel like you're talking to me right now, Dave.
Talking to everybody. But
Yeah, I feel like sometimes a lot of times suffer with procrastination and waiting, because sometimes I feel like I'm not good enough, or sometimes I feel like, I should learn this thing more before I actually start it. Mm-hmm. Right now I'm going through a transition in my life in which I am moving to Tallahassee, mm-hmm. and I'm having a lot of help with that with my parents, and my dad is more of the waiting person, like, you should just wait a little bit, see what happens. Mm-hmm. And my mom is more of the person just like, take action, go for it. Mm-hmm. And I'm in the middle right now where I'm trying to see which one is better for me. I'm trying to look for an apartment, and I want to I just signed a lease last night, and I'm just waiting, not waiting, but I'm trying to see like which action is correct for me to take, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you're in this place where you've got to take some action, but you want to take the right action.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you can take action and still use wisdom. So great point. And it it's so relevant to everyone listening right now, even if you're the only one that's present right now that's going to college and everyone else is not even in that bracket. It still applies. So you may know that God's created you a great potential, but it's not enough. That's not enough. You can't stop there. You have to develop your potential. So let's talk about this. Let's delve into that. And then we'll go back and read comments. So be picking some comments out, Mike, on LinkedIn and Facebook, and we'll read them. But I want to kind of try to answer the question that Lisa posted. So I believe that many people are unhappy. This is what I believe, because they aren't doing anything to develop their potential. Let me explain that. You have potential. You know you have potential. You dream. Hear me. You dream of the potential unlocked. You dream of the business. You dream of it. But what are you doing? And a lot of people are not doing anything to develop their potential. There's an investment that you have to make. And look, and it is resources, but it's not always. This is not like there's not at the end of this, there's not a sales pitch. Time. Investing into your potential. If you want to see your potential develop to its fullest, don't wait until everything is perfect. So I think that the answers, to the question that was asked, how do you know when? Scroll. To know when waiting should stop and the action should start. So, let me say this. If you're asking that question, possibly, and there's a lot of people, at least ask the question, but there's a lot of people that's the question. That's the question, whether you ask it or not. If you ask the question, I think you have your answer. That makes sense? Because if you're wondering, is this done? Why are you wondering? There's a chance. Here's the one thing that's for sure. If you're asking that question, I think that you probably have conquered the undercooking. And because you probably have a tendency to undercook. You have a tendency to jump the gun, tendency to not wait, tendency to not be patient. So you're sensitive to that, overly sensitive. So it's not undercooked. But how do I know? And I think if you ask that question, you might have your answer. And I think it could be time, or at least time to check it. And there's nothing wrong with checking it multiple times. Is it done yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? And I think that's another thing. Pray, ask God, are we there yet? Not yet. Are we there yet? Not yet.
I think one key to it too, and you kind of hit on it, is at least in my life, the reason I think I've been successful in things that I've decided to do is I have just jumped into the deep end. I've just jumped in and gone for it. Right. When we did the, we obviously have a mastermind event coming up, and I wouldn't know what to do to start with if we hadn't done the leadership roundtable that we did last year. And that gave me, I kind of look at life as this, like there's obviously times that I've failed in my life, and I don't mean that in trying, but failure isn't something that I necessarily see. What I see a lot of times is I didn't fail. I learned something new. Right. I may have messed up, but I didn't fail. I just learned a way not to do it. And that goes back to Thomas Edison and the light bulb, and how he didn't fail. He just found 1,000 different ways to not create the light bulb. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of the way I've always kind of looked at it when I'm thinking about doing something. It's like, let me just jump into it. Let me just see what happens. I mean, if I ultimately am not good at it, I'm not good at it. But I've just jumped in head first into the deep end. And if I hit my head on the bottom of a well, if I hit my head on the bottom, as long as it didn't kill me, I learned something. Don't dive as hard. But that's kind of what it is. Like sometimes when you feel that urge, and maybe that's when, action should start, is when you feel like it's that moment. So anybody can think of this if you've ever been at a pool. You haven't jumped in the water yet. Some people are like, I go in the steps and I slowly acclimate. But there's always that day where you're standing at the edge of the pool and you're looking at the water. The water's cooler than you're used to. And you're going, do I just jump in? And then you have that moment where you just say, screw it, and you go. And that's kind of what you have to do. I was in the hot tub in the pool with my granddaughter the other day, and I did that. Where here's interesting, and never
you're waiting for it to feel different
Yeah.
before you do.
Yep.
Like you're waiting. What you would love is for God to go, oh, you want me to instantly make that comfortable? And you're like, yes, thank you. And I'm going to step in very calmly. And I'm not going to even like cringe or anything. But as you step in the cold water, you can feel it going up. You're cringing.
Yep.
So the deal is, you come to that. You're like, I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah, he's gonna jump.
You know what I mean? And can I tell you something? If you're thinking about, do I need to rip the Band-Aid off? It means it's not bleeding through anymore. It's not undercooked. And I think that's the answer. So let me say this, because I know we only have a few minutes here. Start laying your hand to whatever's in front of you. You want to maybe put that in a note? That's a good. So yeah, fail forward kind of thing. That's good. Absolutely. But can I say this? Fail forward, but understand this. We're not getting younger, and I don't mean that negatively. None of us are. I mean, but to that comment, Elisa. So use the past experiences that we have. You understand what I'm saying? Like, in other words, fail forward, but it's not like you're 19-year-old David failing forward. Like where I'm going, okay, dude, boom. Just like, oh my God, that hurt, right? Because I fell forward because I have no patience. I've matured a lot. So I'm going to use my past experiences in failing to fail forward. So it's failing in purpose. It's failing for purpose. It's failing on purpose. So I'm not going to crash and burn. I just am going to stumble here. So it is failing forward or feeling forward. But here's the thing. Start laying your hands to whatever is in front of you. So you must, can let me say this. You must give your potential. I'm going to say that phrase because you got to make it personal. You must give your potential some form by doing something with it. Your potential has to be given form, some sort of form, by doing something with it. You'll never find out what you're capable of doing if you never try. So don't be afraid of failing to the point where you don't take a chance. Don't stay in your safety zone. Don't stay in your comfort zone. You may feel safe, but you will never succeed at developing your full potential or being fulfilled in what you're doing if you don't step into what you feel God is leading you to do. And you will soon discover what you can and cannot do. And that's the difference in just failing forward. It's like you've discovered some things over the journey, some things you can do and some things you can't do. If 10 years ago, you would have fell forward not knowing that you couldn't do this thing that now you can't do, and all of a sudden you would have hit your head on it. But now you can't do it. So as you go forward, you omit the things that you know you can't do. But you also have picked up on some things that you didn't know you could do. So now you're failing forward with some maturity, with some experience. There's a difference there. Guys, we're full of God-given potential. Full of it. It's coming out of our ears. It's coming out of our eyes. It's coming out of our mouth. And here's the thing. He wants to do more through our lives. Let's get this, okay? Than we could ever imagine. He wants to do more. Ephesians 3:20, exceeding abundantly above all you can ask or think according to his power. That's at work in us. But it requires our cooperation. So we have to step out and serve him wholeheartedly today. Amen? Today. This is the day the Lord has made. I'm encouraged, man. Let's read some comments really quick. We only have a couple minutes before. Pick some comments, maybe 3, 4, 5. Let's pick like 5 comments on LinkedIn and Facebook and take a minute or so and give some shout outs and read some here.
There was a couple.
No, I'm not even going to comment. I'm just going to say amen.
Let's go back to, so Kayla Williams replied to some of the reasons that you've overweighted. Taking caution, making sure it's the right decision or process at the time, being scared and not taking the leap of faith. There was another one I saw that I wanted to touch on. Kayla, again, for me, it's overcoming anxiety. I know I have potential and I go about fulfilling this potential, but while enduring this, it's so scary and uncertain that it develops this anxiety within me.
Dumasani. Let's read a couple comments on LinkedIn too.
I'll get that. I'll go over to LinkedIn in just a second. Dumasani, when you live a life seeking people, the world's approval, you'll never live your full potential. Here's what we say about Jesus in Luke 20:21. We know that you speak and teach what is right and are not influenced by what others think.
Amen. Amen. Thank you guys for that.
And then
LinkedIn.
Oh, we got a few more. Thinking Carvey Parker replying to the why you just overweighted, thinking it would just come, thinking someone would see my talents with what I do, but realized I had to prove myself to me and others. It's a good one.
Man, that's awesome stuff. Great comments and great. I'm going to say this: the answers that you guys give are so helpful because it's transparency. I mean, you're saying, hey, these are reasons why these are reasons why I in my life have hesitated to, develop or reasons why maybe I stayed in the same place too long. And you know what? These are reasons why I was overcooked. These are reasons why I overweighted. And amen. I love it. Hey, let me just tell you, Lisa said I have to recreate my list of things to do today. And I'm going to tell you, I do it. Hey, I do it nonstop. Nonstop. Recreate it throughout the day. Add things to it. Make that your best friend. Put it down. I'm going to tell you, a little secret there too that I do. I put it all under the Habakkuk, write the vision, make it plain, so that those who see it will pick it up and run with it. I put that all under that. Or something that's connected with that in Proverbs that we all talk about, without vision, my people perish. Well, the version I like is without vision, my people run wild. So if you don't want to run wild, which is running wild is trying to develop potential, but just really not having a process. So put it down and put it under the context of vision. And you know what? You could always delete it. You could always erase it. You could always rearrange it. You could always add to it, but constantly be changing that. Just a piece of advice that I do non-stop all through the day. It helps me because it puts it in front of me. And before I've got to go out, we're going to go, by the way, if you don't have something to do, we're going to go live on my personal page at 9:15. It's for our sales team out in the sales room, but I'm going to be doing something on the principle of opportunity. And I came up with it last night. I actually stayed up really late typing notes, and it's something I just feel led to do, but I'm going to do it live. But I will tell you that before I can put it out there, before you can put it out to someone else and develop potential, you've got to put it out to you. That's why notes are so important to me.
Song of the day today, the title kind of says it all, but I feel it's appropriate based on kind of what we talked about. It's Ready or Not from Hillsong United. And basically the crux of the songs, Are You Ready?
I thought you were going to say Ready or Not by the Fugees for a second.
Is that the one that goes, Ready Now?
No, that's an old one. No, it's literally one of their newer songs from their most recent album. It's just a really good song because it's basically the crux of it. Are you ready or are you not?
Nice.
So thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And on that note,
we out.